Hey guys, how's it going? I'm coming from my kitchen, my dining room. So, we've been talking about customers and the write up process. This one doesn't follow the book perfectly, but I wanted to bring up employees and kind of benefits, wages, what that looks like, what some of the differences are, and start to go over this because coming up in your assignments, it's going to be making a help wanted ad, and you have to be very aware of the based off what type of tech you want to hire, what you need to offer to be competitive. So the first thing that we need to talk about is wage. Now, I've talked about this in some of the discussions, the difference between salary, hourly, and commission. Uh, an hourly employee is exactly that. They clock in, they clock out. Whatever amount of time they're there, that's what they get paid. Now, hourly employees are eligible for overtime. So anytime over 40 hours, they have to get overtime pay. Normally speaking, that's time and a half. Also, there's a couple of other things that as a manager you have to keep in mind when you're talking about hourly pay or hourly workers. What you have to offer a full-time employee is different than what you have to offer a part-time employee. And Federal Labor Standards Act, or FLSA, dictates that any employee who works over 32 hours is considered a full-time employee. So if you hired somebody in as part-time, you have to be very careful to not work them more than 32 hours. That being said, part of the reason why employers will hire somebody part-time is they may not have to offer them health benefits. They may not have to offer them retirement benefits. What they're being insured for under the shop's insurance is less than a full-time employee because they're not supposed to be touching as many vehicles because they're not in the facility for as many hours. However, understand if you hire somebody part-time, they're going to look for a full-time position. If not with you, then with somebody else. Have to have some coffee, guys. So, where does that leave us? Well, in an hourly employee, they are the easiest cost to manage in a shop. I could take my hourly employees, and if I know that I'm having less work because it's the dead of winter and there's bad weather and I don't have people coming in, then I can reduce the amount of hours that I'm putting on the schedule for my hourly employees, which that is a huge help, at least for me. My employees have to be making enough though to make it worth their while to stay with me, even if I have to reduce hours. Now, the next category of employees we're going to talk about is salary. So salary is going to cover somebody is offered a specific wage for a specific job. Usually it's going to be done in either a monthly, weekly, or yearly number. Regardless of how you break it down, it doesn't matter. The fact is, whatever the number that they are going to be paid, they're getting that number regardless of how many hours it takes them to do the job. If it takes them a day to get done a particular task, then it takes them a day to get done. Now, if that means they got to stay 9-10 hours to get that done, they got to stay 9-10 hours to get that done. Sometimes they might get their job done in 3 hours. It happens. Doesn't matter. They get paid the same. salary is usually reserved for management positions. Okay? Because managers have things like payroll, they have things like training, they have things like customer service and problem resolution. So there's all these other things that get in the way of them selling or fixing a car or completing a task like that. And these are things that are very hard to pay per the task. But they're things that overall keep the business running. So if these things don't get done, all the other work of the business isn't going to be productive. So because of that, they get paid a set amount to make sure their job, their responsibility is done. That's why you'll see managers might stay late on a Wednesday or a Thursday so they can leave early on a Friday, and it doesn't affect their pay. It's also why if a whole store or dealership bonuses, they get a share of that. And it's viewed as getting a share of really everyone else's because what they did allowed everyone else's job to function properly. At the end of the day, that's the job of a manager. A manager is supposed to find ways to make everybody else's work more efficient, easier. They're supposed to be removing problems. Now, I know already, as you're watching this, you're probably wanting to react. Well, my manager doesn't take care of my problems. He gives me more. It really depends on the way you're looking at it. And looking at it from our day-to-day routine, yeah, it can seem like our managers are just getting in our way or giving us more problems. Really, what they're trying to do is create a step or a task or a function so that the overall, not just your job, but everybody's job can be made easier somehow. Or so that they can get data to make everybody's job easier. Like if they add a step that they want all of the work orders filed, not only with the cashier to make an invoice, but also digitally with them so that they can keep track and figure out how much is warranty money and how much is income. That's so that they know what promos to run, so that they could tell the general manager, so that the general manager isn't coming in and kind of laying in on the service department. So there's where your salary workers come in. And then commission. It's a percentage of what you sell. Now, kind of a mix of these. You'll see these get mixed up a little bit in the automotive industry because flat rate. In flat rate, what we have is we have an hourly rate. But that hourly rate isn't going to be paid by clock in and clock out time. It's going to be paid by how many hours you turn or how many hours you've earned based off jobs you've completed. So it's an hourly rate based off of a service manual time. But essentially, you're still an hourly employee. A lot of your chains, Pep Boys, Mavis, Jiffy Lube, they're going to do kind of a commission / hourly. You get paid an hourly rate, but for every job that you recommend that gets sold, you and the writer are going to have a certain amount of commission on it. A lot of times I'll also run promos. I know when I managed an STS store, we would have weeks where I'd have a Monday meeting, I'd have all my techs together, and I would tell them, hey look, any car that even remotely needs a brake flush, recommend it. Let the customer know that it's a preventive maintenance item, but the company right now is having a promotion with, maybe it's the supplier of the brake fluid or the supplier of the tool that we use for flushing. The one I can actually think of off the top of my head was we would have induction cleanings, throttle body cleanings. And for a whole week, every vehicle that came in, if it had even the slightest bit of carbon on the throttle body, we would recommend a throttle body cleaning. It is a preventive maintenance. It is going to help the car maybe feel a little bit better. There's no, I mean, you can damage it by not doing it right, but just the simple act of doing it or recommending it was still going to be better for the car, but we made a point of recommending that more. Why? Because Run Right, which is a local company that supplies a lot of induction cleaning products, was running a promo with STS. And so STS would tell us for every 10 induction cleanings you sold, you got a bonus of this much money in your check. And then I, as the manager, if my store sold so many induction cleanings, they would have it tiered. At 100 induction cleanings that week, I would get a certain amount. At 200, a certain amount, and it would go up. So you'll see a lot of different pay plans in this industry. One of the things to be careful of is the word a guarantee. If you work flat rate or you have some type of a hybrid of flat rate and hourly, a lot of places will say, okay, well, we'll offer you a guarantee. The idea behind a guarantee is if there's not enough work coming in for you to get your 40, 50, 60 hours, whatever you're supposed to be turning, they will guarantee that you will get paid at least 40. However, it's rare that that guarantee is a real guarantee. And what I mean by that is they might pay you the 40, but maybe they're going to write you up. They might pay you the 40 hours, but if you do it 2 weeks in a row, you get laid off. Well, actually, you get fired. And we're going to talk about that later on, too, what the difference between a firing and a layoff is. But you'll get fired. When I worked for STS, if a tech was supposed to turn 34 hours in a week and he didn't make any commission until after that, then if he only made 33 hours, next week he would make 35. Or if he only turned 30, next week he owed me 38. The remaining hours he didn't make this week got tacked on the next week's that he owed me. So be careful about guarantees. You, going out there to get hired as a tech, need to be very aware of what is the pay plan. Not just for when you start, because almost everybody's going to start you hourly. It's the safest for you and the store. This way, if the facility finds out you aren't productive, they can let you go. Now, how do they figure out if you're productive? Well, productivity is a math equation. The way they do the math is this. How many hours did you work under how many hours you turned? So if you worked 40 hours that week, but you only turned 20 hours book time, regardless of how you're being paid, they know that those work orders only equaled 20 hours of book time. Divide that by the 40 hours you're there, you're 50% productive. However, if you're there 40 hours and you turn 60 hours, okay, what you're going to get is you're going to get 100 and pretty much 150% productive. That's the type of math that your manager is doing. Added on to, are you keeping up with your training? Added on to, how many comebacks do you have? Because if you're 150% productive, but half your jobs come back, then you really were only 75% productive. Because all those comebacks are free repairs. They're coming out of the pocket. And that's why you have to do your own comebacks. Because it should only affect your productivity, not the guy next to you. So now you understand, I hope, a little bit about the pay scales. You understand about productivity. I want to hit a little bit on benefits and what does it mean for benefits. So benefits fall into fringe benefits, the primary, the actual benefits that are part of your pay plan. When you look at it, you're going to have benefits like your health benefit, your health insurance if they offer it. That benefit is part of where your money goes, and it's part of where the company's money goes. Some of these come out before taxes, like healthcare. Some come out after. Alright guys, I had to move out to the deck because other people are working. So, wanted to go over benefits, fringe benefits, some of the other things that go into pay plans, and understanding how technicians are taken care of and what you have to be aware of. So benefits are going to be things that fall on the payroll somewhere. They either come out pre-tax or they come out after tax. To give you an idea, you have things like health insurance, vision, dental. You might have a college savings plan. You're probably going to have a retirement savings plan or 401k. So there's things, and they're going to be different amounts of contributions. Some from you, some from the company. Some are optional, like a 401k. Some are mandatory. In the last couple of years, healthcare has become more of a mandatory one. Also, there's unemployment insurance that you and the company pay into. So these are, the quote-unquote official benefits. Now, there's benefits that are non-monetary benefits. You're never going to see them come up on a spreadsheet or on the cost of being employed, but they are there nonetheless. So, for example, uniforms. If your company provides you uniforms, that's a benefit. It's clothing of yours that you didn't have to go out and buy that isn't wearing out. Especially if they provide a uniform, they may even provide a laundry service. So now you're not trying to get rid of that dirt, oil, and grease at home. Some places will provide a lunch, maybe one day a week or once a month. Usually they'll also provide a discount on parts and service. Okay? So all of these different things are benefits, but they don't come up on a spreadsheet somewhere. They don't actually add up. There's no record of that being part of the cost of your employment. Alright, so sorry about that. Back. So fringe benefits. What are fringe benefits? Well, fringe benefits are the things that aren't overtly given by the company, but there's still benefits you get. For example, if the company gets a discount outside of the normal, like let's say you're working for Ford, but that Ford dealership for some odd reason has a connection with the movie theater down the road, maybe the same family owns both, or something like that, and you get a discount at the theater simply because you work at that dealership, that's a fringe benefit. Being able to use your bay when you're not working, that is a fringe benefit. It's space, utilities, electric, water that you're not having to spend money on, that somebody else is footing the bill for, primarily your employer. You have no entitlement to those fringe benefits. Those are 100% what the employer wants to give, and they can change at any point in time. So that's something to be aware of. Just know going in. Also, if you're a manager or you're an owner, when you're hiring talent and you want to get the best of the best, you have to know exactly what cards you can put on the table to get them. Because I guarantee you your competition's doing it. And trust me, you're not only competing for customers, you're competing for employees. Now, that being said, what is the number one reason why employees either stay or leave or come to a business? A lot of people immediately think it's the money. It isn't. It's what they call the culture or the climate or the atmosphere. It's where you work, it's how your business makes an employee feel coming to work every day. People will put up a lot for good money. But at a certain point, no matter how good the money is, they're not going to stay. So this goes into what we were talking about yesterday, where if it's not a good atmosphere, you're not going to be able to retain employees. And if you can't retain employees, how are you going to retain customers? So from a management standpoint, you have to understand pay, you have to understand benefits and different plans like that. But it's even more important to understand what makes for a good culture. When people feel that they could talk to their manager, when people feel that they're understood, that they're listened to, those are some of the things that add to a good culture. So actually, I'm going to stop the lesson here. And I want you guys to think about before the next day, which would be Monday, what is a good company culture? When you would want to get employed somewhere, when you would want to work for somebody, what is a good culture?